You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
This is the business of cannabis.
The use of cannabis.
Welcome to a special edition of the Business of Cannabis. I'm Dave Sky here with Matt Cook, my co-host. We're doing something a bit different this show. We're bringing you two interviews we did recently at MJ Unpacked, a cannabis trade show held at the Mandalay Bay Casino in Las Vegas. MJ Unpacked is a new trade show, and it's for the executive crowd to network and talk about brand and market developments and I guess the other super massively important topics C-level types like to chat about. Presumably the noise you hear in the background is precisely that. Today we'll be bringing you two interviews we did at MJ Unpacked with two very dynamic individuals. First off, Vince Ning from Nabis. Matt and I think you'll be hearing a lot from Vince over the next few years as he and the Nabis team are looking to become the Amazon of cannabis, basically offering a platform that picks up, warehouses, tests, and delivers cannabis products, along with offering analytics and other services, they even credit. It's an impressive company. They're in California now, but plan to take over North America eventually. So we'll chat to Vince about that. Second, we talk with Daniel Berman from CannabisBPO. As the name suggests, Daniel's crew provides business process outsourcing for any cannabis business. Basically, if you have a person doing a task in your organization, CannabisBPO can take over and do it for you. Business process outsourcing is nothing new, but it's definitely new in cannabis, and so we thought it was worth checking out. So let's do that and check out two potentially very powerful players in the cannabis space, Nabis and CannabisBPO. This is Dave Sky, along with Matt Cook, bringing you interviews we did at the Mandalay Bay Casino on the exhibition floor at MJ Unpacked in Vegas. And this is the business of cannabis. So welcome, Business of Cannabis, and we are at MJ Unpacked, a conference for executives in the retail and branding space, and we are excited to talk to Vince Ning from Nabis. A serial entrepreneur might be unfair, but certainly Vince has, judging from him, too many accomplishments for his age. Co-founder and president of two other software ventures. Vince is currently founder and co-CEO of Nabis, California's largest licensed cannabis wholesale marketplace platform. Supports over 100 cannabis brands. Vince selected for the Forbes 30 Under 30 for enterprise technology, along with Entrepreneur Top 100 cannabis companies. In July, Nabis raised over $23 million to help with expansion. So this is a company to look out for. A software engineer, I'll be asking Vince to dumb it down for us a little bit and explain the world of cannabis wholesaling and distribution. Welcome to the show, Vince.
Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome,
it's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you've stated publicly that cannabis is one of the first industries to be creating a supply chain after the invention of the internet. I found that an interesting idea. So how has that influenced the supply chain, and how has it influenced in Nabis? That's a way to start off.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think the internet's a pretty big inflection point in the human race and society in general.
Yeah.
And so, in past supply chains, everything, we like to think about things in terms of sort of a bits versus atoms type framework. And everything before in the supply chain, before the internet, was an Adam's business. And anything that needed to get done required a human person to be there. Everything that needed to get done required pen and paper. This is before the time of like spreadsheets, like when the alcohol industry was created, or the pharmaceuticals industry, CPG for the most part. And now, with the invention of the internet, what you're starting to see is a lot of e-commerce businesses started to be created. Brands really being able to speak to a broader swath of audiences and really reach their consumers more directly. And so, we wanted to bring that similar level of experience, that modern experience, into the cannabis industry, where, we didn't want to just rest on our laurels and say, hey, let's just copy a supply chain from that worked before, when we can build something way cooler and more sophisticated that actually helps brands on another order of magnitude. And so what we've built is a wholesale marketplace solution that is similar to Amazon in a lot of ways, given we have the e-commerce portal with a fully integrated logistics backend. So there's your sort of bits and atoms respectively. Brands really, instead of having to work through a traditional distributor to get sales services and help, brands really get to do their own sales now, do their own marketing through online channels, as well as be able to just ship and sell through our platform and get the exposure that they need to without hiring so many people. It helps their margins, it helps their brand awareness, exposure, and ultimately helps their brand grow much faster.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I was going through your website, and there's a lot going on at Nabis, and distribution, delivery, warehousing, analytics, your capital services. Walk our listeners through, what's going on at Nabis, and kind of soup to nuts. How does that help them?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to explain this is probably from the customer's perspective. So let's say you're a retailer and you're trying to purchase some products off of our menu or our portfolio of brands. We now distribute over 125 brands on the platform, which is probably 5 times more brands than our next largest competitor.
So from customer, you mean dispensaries?
From the dispensaries,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have customers on both sides as a two-sided marketplace, but
but not people buying actual, not
correct.
Customers walking into dispensaries,
businesses.
The dispensary versus and the brand.
Exactly, yeah.
Distributor / producer.
Businesses.
Yeah.
And so, when a retailer or a brand, they consummate a sale, that'll go through our marketplace platform, and it triggers a set of processes on our end to go pick, pack, and fulfill the product, handle all the compliance that needs to get taken care of from a regulatory standpoint. So none of that needs to be done by either the brand or the retailers themselves. And finally, we'll ship the product out. And beyond that, even that's still half the battle. As a marketplace platform, we also handle collections on behalf of all of our brands. And so collections and payment processing, typically when you purchase something on eBay or on Amazon, you pay the marketplace and they'll funnel the money, they'll collect the taxes, they'll collect their fees, and then the rest of it goes back to the brand. And so, we handle more than just the delivery and the fulfillment component, but also the payments component. And so for the first few years, we, built out this platform. We roughly distribute about 10% of California's market now. It's given us a wide amount of data around the product transactions that occur on a day-to-day basis, as well as the financial health of many of the businesses that we work with, given we handle their payments, we handle their fulfillment, and all the above. We're really deeply nested in the supply chain, and we want to be part of that fabric. So as a result, in the first few years, when businesses wanted to get to market, they really just needed a low-cost shipping solution to get a product from point A to point B. And now that brands and retailers and businesses want to scale up, launch more locations, launch more product SKUs and product lines, they want to be able to have all the right tools around them from a business standpoint to be able to scale. And so, the priority for them before was just launching, now it's scaling. And as part of that, we're also, as a startup, evolving with the market needs. And that's how we've built our business ever since the beginning. It's just solving problems for our partners. And we've launched, as a result of that, the marketplace platform. We've launched a fintech solution that helps brands get upfront liquidity on their sales. And then we also have data analytics solutions as well that can help brands really supercharge their growth and sales.
Wow.
Okay. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'll take one.
Yes.
So the marketplace was where the buying and selling happens, and the analytics is I want access to this data.
Yep, exactly.
On whatever level it's going to help it. And the fintech side was what you call your capital services.
Exactly. Yeah. So when a brand
you'll actually provide funds for your clients.
Yeah, we provide liquidity in the sense that let's say
credit.
Credit. Yeah. So let's say, for example, a brand wanting to sell $1,000 worth of product to a retailer. Oftentimes those sales are done on credit already. So let's say net 30 or net 60 terms. And many brands, when they're small or like when they're growing, they want to grow faster. They don't want to wait the 30 or 60 days to collect their payment. They can't. And what we do is we'll buy that invoice, we'll buy that account receivable off of the brand's balance sheet, and we'll wait the 30 to 60 days, but we'll buy the invoice at a slight discount. So we make a little spread of margin there, but it really gives the brand a lump sum chunk of capital day one to go start manufacturing their second batch of products, so that by the time at the store level they sell through all the inventory that they just purchased, there's already fresh product waiting for them. Otherwise, it's this very synchronous, step-by-step flow where you get stockouts at stores all too often.
Right.
Yeah, the obvious part, like it's an underbanked sector.
Yeah.
I see you stepping in. I mean, credit to try to run a business without some credit, very difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Very difficult.
You've got to be pretty successable right off the bat every day.
Every day.
You never have a bad week.
Yeah.
Or it's cool.
Yeah.
Could you think of give us a tangible example of how you integrate with a dispensary type partner, and then a distributor? Like, take us through that process, but in a granular way. I walk in and I buy a product, and how does that interact with your whole system? So I can see it from beginning to end.
Yeah, and as a customer, you mean from a consumer every day?
I'm a consumer. I don't necessarily know, but if I could actually look into the computer and see everything that was happening,
the flow
track it through, the flow through, so that we could put it all together.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, when from the start to the finish, you have growers that'll just produce the raw material. Let's take, for example, you're producing a gummy product that consumer wants to buy. They'll take that raw material, extract it into oil, inject it into the gummies, or infuse it rather, and then we will actually bring batches of products into our warehouse, and it'll sit in our warehouse for about 30 days. We basically manage inventory for about 30 days on hand for all of our brands, and we handle in that time actually. There's a separate quarantine section where we have products sit when it first gets into our warehouse, where it's untested product. And it's actually part of the roles and responsibilities of a distribution business to arrange and work with testing labs to get the products tested. There's about 7 different tests that are required under compliance from a compliance standpoint.
Right.
And that comes to like homogeneity, heavy metals, things like that, pesticides.
Yeah.
And once we get the green light from the testing lab, then we have a certificate of analysis, test results basically, and we can move that inventory into our main fulfillment inventory. As soon as that happens, that inventory goes live on our marketplace, and retail customers in this case can go purchase products through the marketplace. And once they purchase it, we typically try to hold to a 2 to 3 day delivery SLA. And so it'll take about 2-3 days to get to their door, and then once it gets in the door, a retailer will intake it. They have their whole process. Perhaps they want to QC things before it gets on the shelf. Once it gets on the shelf, then a retailer can go buy it. So there's a lot of steps involved, and the government's involved in every aspect of it. Every time.
I was going to say, that must be a big challenge, because you've got to be compliant at every step in that process.
100%. Every time we move product, only licensed distributors can move product from licensee to licensee, and so every time we move product, we actually have to notify and tell the state exactly what's moved, when, who the driver was, what vehicle it was in, the license plate, all the line items. And so, it's a pretty laborious process. And that's where the technology really comes into play, the automation.
We are talking with Vince Ning at MJ Unpacked from Nabis, talking all about warehousing and marketplace and ordering and connecting dispensaries with suppliers and producers. Is there an area of the business that you think is the key challenge, and that's where you see real growth? Is it analytics? Is it just driving the delivery? It's kind of like looking at Amazon and going, what did they really do better and better every year? And it was, wow, did they get delivery better?
Yeah.
So like, I think of things and it's already at my door.
Yeah.
Or is it more of the relationship between, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationships are really important in this industry, given while it's a big market and it's growing very fast. It's supported by a small community of operators and entrepreneurs, and so it's really important to have those relationships. But I think, over time, Amazon's playbook has always been, a few fold, where they are always focused, and similar to Walmart and a lot of these other like e-commerce businesses nowadays. But it's all about lowering prices for your customers, finding the absolute lowest price in the market for your products, faster delivery. So how quickly can I get it into my customers' hands? And diversification of products on my platform, because you're going to want to just go to a place where you can find as many products as possible. And so, we oftentimes think about that as our flywheel as well, as far as continuing to scale up our business, and how do we, and ultimately that should translate into providing the best customer experience for retailers, brands, and ultimately the consumer. And in doing so, we allow more and more brands to get to market. We allow retailers to have more choice in who they decide to carry on their shelves. And finally, the consumer gets all of that access as well. We don't want to be, oftentimes distributors are seen as this middlemen, really bottlenecking the industry, and I think it can be that way. Yeah. It can be that way. They decide who wins and who doesn't. They like to be kingmakers, and for us, we wanted to provide a suite of services that can help brands really pick and choose what they need to get their products out to market the best way possible.
Well, I think the one thing that you kind of hit the nail on the head, it's really about serving your customer, and ultimately your platform allows the dispensaries to really focus on what they should be focusing on, which is ultimately helping their customers as well. Right. So it will enable the dispensaries to do a better job of treating their customers, which will lead to a better experience, which should help them grow, which inevitably will help you guys grow.
Right, exactly. It's a virtuous cycle.
Are you guys just, by the way, in California?
We're currently only in California.
Does that, from what I've just, the tone of your voice, does that mean we can expect you to grow outside of California?
Yeah, that's the main goal.
Is there anywhere outside of California? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, we started in California, and it's our home base. We believe that California in society has it's kind of this mecca for cannabis, where it has the heritage, it has a lot of the most mature products. Right. And so thinking about future state scenarios where the walls start coming down on federal legalization, and state by state legalization even, we're going to want to bring these brands from California out to new markets, and we want to be that supporting fabric to do so. So in the coming years, we want to start getting licensed in other states that make sense for our brands. Ultimately, we're going to listen to them for direction on where to go. And as a distribution business, the more coverage you have, we're a utility at the end of the day. We're an infrastructure business. It's like, when you look at those ads on AT&T and Verizon, it's like, it's more coverage in more places, and that's kind of our mission as well, is just to get brands that access.
Hopefully AT&T's not your fate, like your role.
No, it's not. They just have a catchy title.
That was an example, by the way. That was a very broad-based example.
They have a very catchy slogan.
Yeah, great slogans. And a great name, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Another concept you've talked about that fascinates me is this idea of limitless shelf space. I can't quite understand what that means. Yeah. Because I get it in an e-commerce sense, but you deal with actual product.
Yeah.
So tell me about that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for us, like we from the software e-commerce side of things, it certainly is limitless, and one of the big limiting factors, obviously, the four walls that surround our warehouse and how much product we can carry. But at the end of the day, similar to Amazon and how they have virtually limitless shelf space, we're constantly building out more capacity to bring on as much product as possible. So right now, we ship about 10% of California's market on our current footprint, but we're building out more facilities in California alone over the course of the next few years that should be able to support about $80 million worth of sales on a monthly basis. So,
Wow.
That's, right now it's about, I'd say, probably like 1/5 of that, 1 to 1/6. And so, I think the industry, we want to grow with the industry. We don't want to and one of the things we've been cautious about is also, contrary to software, once you sign a lease for real estate and build up a warehouse, that cost is a fixed cost that sits on your balance sheet.
Right.
So it's all about making sure that we have actually good demand forecasting to understand how the industry will continue to grow, so that it backs into how much real estate that we need. Because once you turn that thing on, it's really hard to reverse. And so, we want to iteratively get there over time, not just build a 1 million square foot warehouse like Amazon does today and expect to just fill it up.
Are you agnostic then in terms of brand, or do you look at your brand? Or?
Yeah, that's a big part of it as well. I think because of our model, we don't. We don't actually. While we have a marketplace, we don't have any, on the ground salespeople, similar to how traditional alcohol distributors have. They have people with basically shopping menus going door to door selling things. And one, that's costly, but two, humans are biased and they're like, oh, maybe I like this brand more, I like that brand more. And when you have two competing brands on your platform, it's the same sales guy trying to sell competitor A versus B.
Yeah.
And brands get really kind of finicky about it because they don't know how you're prioritizing their sales. And so in our model, we remove the salesperson, provided this agnostic marketplace, and actually come into the market at about half the rate that any other distributor offers in the market currently today. And so brands get to take that extra working capital, build their own sales team that they need. And ultimately, they have every brand on our platform has a dedicated sales, marketing, activation team to focus on their own brand, rather than having one distributor's 30 salespeople focus on 100 brands. You have 100 different salespeople.
Oh, right. Okay.
With the same amount of costs, because we give them that margin back so that they can go spend on their sales and marketing.
So let me ask you. Okay, 5 years, 5 years. Where do you see Nabis going?
Yeah,
Where do you see it focusing? You mentioned you've raised some money.
Yeah.
Raising more money.
Yeah.
What are the expansion plans that you can tell us about?
Yeah. I mean, we want to be a national business. I think, like you said earlier, California is not where we want to stop. It's just where we started. And moving forward, I think it's as more states legalize, we're going to be out to market, replicating what we've built in California in new markets. And I think, it's always a tough job to expand to new markets with different demographics and environmental constraints, and regulatory constraints. But I think what we've built here in California is a very scalable model from the standpoint of the services that we offer. Because ultimately, in any of these new markets, brands are going to want these things. And they're going to want financing. They're going to want fulfillment. They're going to want sales. And
that's not going to change.
That's not going to change.
Yeah.
And so we hope to bring the same level of service to the industry in other markets.
We have been talking to Vince Ning at Nabis at MJ Unpacked on the trade show floor. I want to thank Vince for your time. If you want to learn more, nabis.com. Couldn't be simpler. Vince, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a feeling we'll all be working for you one day.
Yes.
Sounds like a great company, a lot going on. So thanks very much.
Thanks,
I
Vince.
appreciate you guys' time. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more.
Welcome back. We're at MJ Unpacked here in Las Vegas on the floor of the exhibition. And we are happy to talk to Dan Berman from CannabisBPO. CannabisBPO is a pretty interesting concept. It's a business process outsourcing service for literally any company in service, dispensaries, wholesalers, distributors in the cannabis space. So they provide a contact center and contact center services for those companies. Dan has a pretty distinguished background. He has created and managed successful teleservices, customer relationship management programs for Fortune 100 companies for over 25 years. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
So why don't we just start overview? It's an interesting concept. I can't say I've come across too many competitors.
We're it.
Which is pretty cool. So either you're really
we were
smart,
the first.
really smart, or you're
we're dumb.
Yeah. Tell us about how it works and give us an overview.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, right now in cannabis, people are loyal to the plant. They're loyal to the flower, and they're not loyal to brands because brands are brand new.
Right.
The concept of brand loyalty, that's what this conference, MJ Impact, is about. It's just now starting to happen. We recognized 4 years ago when we got into the cannabis space that we were early. But I love to quote one of our board of advisors, Craig Binkley, who's a former Coke exec. It's the best line in the world for cannabis, and he says, just because you got a great product, great packaging, great price point, you found a great distribution channel, congratulations. You're 30% of the way there.
Right.
It really is the customer experience. That's what CPG, consumer packaged goods, has shown us. Coke is easy to copy. I mean, yeah, it's a secret formula, but there are lots of competitors. What is it about Coke that's better than Royal Crown Cola? Why isn't Royal Crown Cola around anymore? It's about the customer experience, the brand experience. And that's what we've done for decades in the pharmaceutical space and financial services, is to create a customer experience, a brand journey. In the case of pharma, there's nobody better at selling pills than pharma. How do they do that? They do that through a patient journey strategy. We're trying to do the same thing in cannabis and help companies establish strong brands through helping them design and implement and execute a sound customer journey strategy.
So most people, if you haven't heard of the term business process outsourcing or BPO, I know for me in the past it's meant kind of call centers.
Yeah.
But obviously, the way things change with technology, maybe walk us through some of the other services that you can provide.
Sure. I mean, if you pop on a website and you see chat, well, chat should be 24/7. There's so many, even if most brands or dispensaries don't have chat right now, but if they do, after hours, they're not even manning it.
Right.
Well, the brand experience doesn't stop at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. That's exactly when the brand experience for most of our customers starts. So I want to talk with somebody. I'm looking for a strain. Do you have it? Nobody's available. Well, we can do that. We can staff that. We have dispensaries. More and more people are communicating by email. They just send an email. Hey, do you have, or can I get, or what is the price of, or I placed an order and I came to pick it up and it was wrong. Help me out. And it's like 75% of those interactions just email. People don't want to call. They prefer not to call. The younger generation prefers non-personal engagement. But that's okay. That's still a brand experience. That's still a brand journey. You still have to answer that email quickly, competently, and make the customer happy. And that's really what distinguishes good brands from bad brands, right? If you go to a restaurant here at MJ Unpacked and you call the manager has the opportunity to turn that experience around and turn it to a positive from what would have been a negative. And so we can do the same thing in every aspect of an engagement with a patient or a cannabis customer along the way.
So take us through that onboarding experience. So I'm hearing this and I'm like, whoa, you could solve a lot of my headaches.
Sure.
Because half my day spent dealing with problems that aren't hard to deal with, that require expertise and my time and energy. So what is that on? So I don't know, whatever company you want. Take us through a case study of an onboarding experience. How do you teach them? Could I be nervous? Suddenly you're answering
Trusting someone else, yeah. Well,
what if you say something
wrong? And that's really what the key cornerstone of our business and any outsourcing business should be. Our goal should always be to be an extension of our client. That our customers, when they call us, shouldn't know that it's CannabisBPO. They should think it is who they're calling. And we're particularly good at that because we've been doing this for so many years. One of the conference operators we worked with for many years before COVID asked us to take over their customer service, and especially before a conference, 2-3 weeks is when it gets really busy. And I saw the conference organizer, and she said to us, "You guys sound so like us.
Like better than us, yeah.
Well, it should
We're not
be.
going to talk anymore.
It should be.
Well, that's
and
true,
that
because
should be our
you're-
goal,
you
because
should
that's
be-
our expertise. That's what we do. And now what we're seeing, and now in particular, we're seeing labor shortages out the wazoo. Everybody's struggling, including us, by the way.
Yeah.
This is in 30 years I've been in business. I've never, ever, ever seen a labor market this challenging. It's not a bad thing necessarily, it just is. We know how to deal with it because we know how to recruit. This is what we've been doing for years. We've seen the roller coaster of good times and bad times for labor, and this is no different than other bad times. It's more challenging, but we already know that we can hire for these. We know how to hire for them. And so many of our clients, I just don't know how to, I can't even get people. If I get them, they don't even show up to their first day. It's like, yeah, that's the labor market we're in.
Yeah, and that's one of the headaches, one of the big headaches that you help solve is, I don't have to worry about finding someone and then training that person and managing that person.
Correct.
And payrolling that person. That's you.
The
guys take care of all
the
that.
technology lift can be impressive for some of these small companies.
Yeah.
It's less now. Obviously, that's the field is flattened with technology. There's all these cloud services that any company can use.
Right.
But there is still a technology lift. You still have to have expertise. It does still cost money. You still have to manage it. We do all that. We take care of all that to make sure everything works correctly. And we also have access to state-of-the-art solutions, which a small business might not have access to.
Right.
For example, a hold process. When you call Delta Airlines, for example, you can hold for 20 minutes, or we can call you back.
Right.
Well, that costs money. That little teeny weeny little feature costs money. Even if your system has it, someone still has to build it.
Right.
So those little things all contribute to that customer experience.
Do you automatically include we're experiencing an unprecedented call volume? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Of course. But the key is to make sure that every customer gets their interaction answered.
Now, in terms of, so let's say, do you offer kind of multi-language
Yes.
services?
Multilingual is obviously Spanish is a huge component of
Right.
any contact center in the U.S. In our Canadian office, we're very, very fortunate. We've been there over 25 years. This is our 27th year, I think, in Canada. And we've watched that province change dramatically, the country change dramatically because of immigration.
Right.
So we have access to all kinds of languages in New Brunswick. Right now we're running programs in 6 or 7 different languages, Italian, German, because we find those immigrants
Right.
in New Brunswick. So normally in the old days, we'd have to go to Germany and create a partnership with a company to do that. We don't have to do that anymore because the language actually comes to us.
Is CannabisBPO in Canada?
Yes, we are.
Supporting the cannabis space there?
Yes, we're incorporated in Canada, and we're incorporated in Canada. That is our headquarters for CannabisBPO. It's just easier from a legal and regulatory standpoint. But we have more clients in the U.S. than we do in Canada right now. We do have Canadian clients, and we are supporting the industry up there.
Just out of interest, do you find a difference in the two markets?
Oh yeah, it's like night and day. I mean, well, it's a real national legalized market. It's different by province. But not like it is here.
A little bit different here.
It's still legal in every province.
Right.
Do you have a in the U.S., is there an area in this country where you see your services being utilized more? It could be the obvious thing. Colorado's been around the longest, so we're mostly there, or is it?
It's all over. It's all over. It's actually the newer states seem to be more interested in the services we provide than the legacy states. And I think the reason is because I think more sophisticated money is coming into the newer states.
And they're looking for that efficiency.
They're looking for those efficiencies. They're looking to get the scale quicker, and that's what we represent as hands and feet and scale. So if I'm adding, a dispensary every 2-3 months, the headache of having to hire for that also and manage and train that is exponentially more difficult. The other thing that you see is the more sophisticated money recognizes is that one of the M&A metrics that investment bankers look at is revenue per FTE, per full-time equivalent. And the call center folks drag that down. So, and if you do a layoff, if you're a public company, it shows badly. So by putting those hourly labor behind that wall, we can size up and size down without impacting stock price.
Yeah. So without getting into, obviously specific details, how do you price your service?
Sure. Every engagement we have in Cannabis especially is really custom.
Okay.
And so we do things like help desk for high-end devices right now. So one of our very, very first clients is a vaping device, and At the time when we started working with them, their devices started at $150 to $200. Pretty pricey. They obviously dropped down like so many devices have into the sub 100, but they still provide robust customer service. So in that particular case, we put them into our shared group. And we have a shared group of agents across multiple clients that don't require really deep training, but basic 1, 2, 3, and if it needs level 2, then it has to be a dedicated person. And so for the shared group, we charge on a per minute basis. If I'm on the call for 10 minutes, and it's 95 cents a minute, $1 a minute, depending on the skill sets we're looking to put it into. It's a $10 call. The more common pricing scenario for our clients is on a FTE basis, full-time equivalent. So if you need 20 people, 30 people, 1 person, 2 people, we basically hire that and we price that on a per FTE basis. And that can range anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a head, depending on what we're looking for. We have some people that require nurses. We have some cannabis clients who have medical science liaisons. These are PhDs. And those are even more expensive. But for the basic frontline folks, that can range anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a month per person.
We are talking to Dan Berman from CannabisBPO here at MJ Unpacked, and learning about an interesting idea of business process outsourcing, which is obviously an idea that's been around, but not so much in the cannabis space. Which leads me to, since you over the last you said 4 years that you've been. Have you noticed the changes in market, and so what's your thoughts on that? What do you see in terms of?
It's mind-numbing how much it's changed.
Wow. Numb our minds without being.
I guess the best way to describe it is when we first got into cannabis, the early money, the early VC and PE money, the funds were established were $10 million funds, $20 million funds, and those funds are now, another digit.
Lower.
Yeah. They keep adding digits, and the graph is going directly with the growth of the industry. And so what we're seeing is as more bigger dollars come in, we're seeing much more sophisticated management teams. So we're seeing management teams coming in from places like Coke, Nabisco, Kraft, a lot of CPG people, and they, so all of a sudden they understand the value of what we provide a lot more.
They've been using you forever.
They've been outsourcing forever. Yeah. For 20, 30 years, they have understood the value of outsourcing. So yeah, the smarter money, the bigger money is in, and they're bringing management teams in that appreciate the value of what we bring to the table and why.
I'd imagine that raises the bar as well. Like, it's not enough just to go, wow, you guys will answer emails for me?
Yeah.
These people are coming in with...
We have to help design and help them improve that customer experience. How do we help them create that competitive advantage in this now very competitive landscape that we're now facing, which really wasn't that competitive before, let's face it. Now it's competitive. How do you do that? Well, I call it a dispensary. Right now, if they don't have the brand I'm looking for, I'll just buy something else, right? But we'll get to the point at some point when my wife sends me to get her contact solution. If they don't have that brand, if they don't have it in that store, I'm going to another store.
Right.
So we haven't gotten there in cannabis yet, but we will. And how do you do that? Through the stuff that we provide.
Well, maybe it's in some cities, in the dispensary, we have gotten to that level. Certainly in Toronto, we have.
Yes.
Where in some blocks you'll have 3 dispensaries, and if I have a bad experience,
you won't go.
I literally will go.
You have choices.
Right.
Yeah.
It's choice. I just have to take 10 steps.
Yeah.
It's not even arduous. I don't have to drive for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Give us a couple of case studies of a small business, because I think a lot of people, when they hear this, will go, I didn't know this was even a thing.
Yeah.
For me. A smaller business and how you help them.
Sure.
And then give us a big business and how you.
So small was a small dispensary chain in the Midwest, not 5 locations, I believe, growing for a small business. And each dispensary had depending on the volume, had 1 to 2 customer service reps per location. And they were struggling. They know how to grow flower, they know how to retail, but they know nothing about customer service, and they were struggling. The labor market switched overnight, and all of a sudden they said, we can't even keep people for a minute before we lose them. So they outsourced it to us, we took it over, their service levels went through the roof, calls were being answered, emails were being returned quickly, customer experience, their NPC, Net Promoter Score, NPS, was going up. They actually measured the Net Promoter Score, which is a very sophisticated thing to do in cannabis. Nobody really does that. So it's like they're thrilled. Now they're adding, as they add dispensaries, they're able to just not have to worry about that aspect of it.
Right.
And with more and more of these engagements happening remotely, we're now getting to remote bud tending. So instead of talking to the bud tender in the location, they're talking to us.
Wow.
We see eventually that will be a video bud tender.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so good.
We want to get to video bud tending. That is our goal. We have several clients who will be doing that with us.
Right.
They've already said they will.
So it's kind of, you're getting ready to beta that right now?
We've already been baiting.
beta?
We have the hardest part is the platform. We already have the partner for the platform.
Okay.
And that really is the hardest part, especially because we're pharma. We think about rules and regulations. It has to be HIPAA compliant. It has to even if we're kind of in that gray area in this business, we're determined to treat it like a real business.
It's one thing that I think people underestimate is the cost of not only hiring a full-time employee to do this work, but the cost when that person turns over.
When they fail.
Right?
Or let's say they stick around and they're bad. What does that cost you?
It costs even more, right? So, hiring the wrong person and not doing it correct, there is a cost there.
It's huge
even
cost.
If you don't measure it, it's there.
Yeah.
And, I think, what you guys do kind of mitigates a lot of that risk.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things people say is, how can you do it better? I said, listen, we have turnover. We have bad employees come in all the time.
Of course.
But we also know when to pull the trigger and say, this isn't going to work. And we need to backfill that person quickly.
And it's not their problem.
It's not their problem.
Yeah.
It's our problem. They don't have to deal with the headache of the person filing a lawsuit saying, you fired me wrongly. Not your problem. That's our problem.
Right.
So what's your bigger client?
Clinical adoption is the holy grail. And what does that mean? How do you get doctors to recommend a cannabis brand? There's 1.5 million writers, doctors, nurse practitioners, and PAs. And then you look at the alternative medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic massage, all those types of things, and alternative healing. Those are recommendations too. They're not prescriptions, but they're recommendations. So one of the things we ask is when you go to the doctor, I'm 60, I have to get my every 10-year colonoscopy, and the first thing the doctor says is, you taking Metamucil? I said, yeah. They don't say, are you taking psyllium husk? They're saying, are you taking Metamucil? And I do. I take Metamucil. When I go to the store and I buy Metamucil, CVS brand is right next to it. But why do I buy Metamucil? Because the doctor told me to buy Metamucil. Right. Why did the doctor tell me to buy Metamucil? Well, Metamucil spent a crap load of money educating that doctor on why, giving him samples, coupons, and influencing that physician. This is right out of pharma playbook that we've been doing for 20 years. This is how pharma markets. OTC, over the counter, as well as prescription brands. Mucinex is another great example. When the doctor says get Mucinex, he doesn't say get Guaifenesin, he says get Mucinex. How do you do it? Coupon, sampling, education, same thing. So a larger engagement that we've had some great success with is promoting CBD topical brands to independent pharmacies. There's 120,000 pharmacies in the U.S., 30,000 ballpark are independent, not CVS, Walgreens. Another 18,000, subset of that, 18,000, we think, based on our data, would be willing to accept CBD brands on their shelves. So we send samples. We send coupons. Do you like it? Would you like to order? Now, they're not in the wholesale system. They have to pull out their credit card and buy it. And we provide, as part of the package to them, we can provide continuing medical education credits. Every pharmacist needs continuing ed credits. Yeah. And so we worked on a client for a multi-year period, basically getting their products into independent pharmacies. Very successful campaign, so much so that they were acquired by a larger player. And clinical adoption is what we know how to do. Doctors, practitioners in this country are now being asked by their patients about cannabis, and they don't have an answer. The brands that bring education to bear and provide that education to practitioners are going to be owned forever. So if I'm a doctor and I go on to get my CMEs, and I go online and it's branded, let's say, by Cannabis, they're going to recommend Cannabis brands, just like you recommended Metamucil. So that's a bigger engagement, that's a bigger picture, that's an area we want to live at the nexus of pharma and cannabis, because we believe that that is where our expertise is most valued.
On the medicinal
the medicine side, yeah.
Right.
Science, medicine, because that really is, it is, when you talk about cannabis as medicine, you talk about the rec market versus the medicinal market. I would venture to say that most patients, even when it is rec, are using it medicinally. With or without the advice of a medical practitioner. Yeah. Wouldn't it be better if it was with the advice of a medical practitioner, recommending a brand that they trust, has efficacy, is safe, GMP produced, all the things that they ask a pharma company before they make a recommendation.
Dan, lots of interesting. We're going to have you back on the show.
Yeah.
But I think you have more to say. I think you do. That's what I'm hearing. But I'm going to have to cut you off. I apologize. We're here with Dan Berman of CannabisBPO at MJ Unpacked in Las Vegas. You want to learn more, go to CannabisBPO.com. CannabisBPO.com makes sense. Name of the company. Dan, thank you very much. That was really
Thanks,
interesting.
Dan.
Appreciate it.
It's really a pleasure to meet you guys. Thanks.
The Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. So welcome back to the Business of Cannabis. This is Dave Sky with Matt Cook. And those were two interviews we did at MJ Unpacked from the Mandalay Bay in Vegas. Vince Ning of Nabis and Daniel Berman, Cannabis BPO. Two new ideas in the cannabis space. One relatively new, being the Amazon of cannabis, and one taking a relatively old idea, BPO, and bringing it into a new industry. Let's start with Vince, the Amazon of cannabis. Is this a thing? Is this going to happen?
I think it will. Vince is a very impressive guy, and I think based on what he said during our talk, it makes a lot of sense. Everything from warehousing and distribution, all the things that probably cause a lot of dispensary owners headaches. It seems like they have a solution. Well, at least for California for now, anyway. But it certainly sounds like it solves a lot of issues and a lot of problems.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it maybe speaks even to a bigger issue, the fragmentation of the cannabis space. So many players creating a space in a particular state, not because it makes economic sense, but because of the regulation. Right. Is this a concept that could sweep across the U.S.? Is this a California concept because there's a micro cannabis culture and industry in California?
Well, I think it has applications across the U.S. Over time. Like right now, obviously, federally, there's some challenges, but eventually down the road, this is a model I think can go right across the U.S. and not even just the U.S. It could go literally anywhere.
I give me my crystal ball. I wish I brought it with me. And I would tell you what's going to happen. But it's like could be one of those businesses where in 5 years ago, what just happened? They've taken over, like Amazon, a 20-some year story. But definitely a concept where probably a fully thought through concept compared to other people who maybe have taken elements of it. They seem to at least be explicitly trying to do it all on an Amazon basis. I don't know. Does Amazon at one point go, you know what? We'll do this. I don't know. That'll be interesting too. If it's legal and federally, I mean, that could be, some of the big players suddenly could say, well, it's just another product to us.
Yeah, I think by then though, I think the advantage that they have is kind of the first mover advantage. If they get ingrained in the industry, I think people are going to have some loyalty to that. So, I think they've got probably, some years ahead of anyone else that could get into the space. And it's not easy to do what they're doing. There's a lot of moving parts, and they seem to have automated a lot of it, which he brought up the point that this is the first, kind of supply chain that's been set up since the invention of the internet.
Right.
Which is true. And I think I think it's a great concept. I like the idea, and it seems like they're executing well as well. So, it'll be interesting to watch over the next couple of years how it evolves.
And there's a good segue into our second guest, Berman of CannabisBPO. You're taking an old concept now. Business process outsourcing has been around. I'm making up a number, 50, 60 years. I don't know.
A long time. Yeah.
Yeah. And bringing it to an industry that's new. Mm-hmm. So old solutions, I don't know if it's a new problem. It was an interesting concept.
I think, the business process outsourcing, really it started out as call centers, right? For large organizations. One of the biggest ones is Minax, and that started out of the need for General Motors to have someone answer their call center calls. They didn't want to do it themselves. And, I think one of the most, irritating things as a consumer, regardless of the product or service that you're looking to purchase, is either calling in, not getting anyone live, not having someone call you back, going on to a chat bot and no one responding. And it's tough. If you look, from a dispensary owner standpoint, you've got a million moving parts. You've got your bud tenders to worry about. You've got your product, your distribution, your logistics, hiring, firing, training. And do you really want to be, doing that yourself? Having someone answer the phone, respond to email inquiries, text inquiries, chat inquiries, or do you want to outsource it to someone who's going to do the hiring, the training, the managing of those people for about the same cost? And it's just something that you don't have to worry about. So the concept of BPO is not new, but it's probably relatively new.
Immediately after Daniel spoke, the thought was going through my mind of, it's easy to say those things. It's very difficult to make those decisions, because what is core? What is really important to you? What do you want control over with your own people in your own sort of, environment? It's not, so it's easy to say, let's outsource, talking to your customers. But we've had people on the show who say, we're all about our customers. All we care about is our customers. Customer experience is the core of what we do. And so those are difficult decisions.
And I agree with that. But at the same time, if you're talking about someone that's going to be, answering calls and emails and text messages, is that a high value touch point?
Yeah.
I would argue it's not. The high value touch point is when they come into the dispensary and they're talking to a bud tender. So as a dispensary owner or manager, do you want to spend your time, because these types of positions turn over quite regularly.
That's the other point. Yeah.
Right. So if you might have someone for 3 months and they leave. Okay. Now you've got to start the recruiting process over, the interviewing process over, the training, the managing, and then those people turn over. So you can waste a tremendous amount of time and money trying to get someone who's literally just going to be the first point of contact.
That's true. It's not just the cost of the person, it's the process.
No, and
around managing that whole process.
The cost of turnover is astronomical when you think about it. And Dan's company's been doing this forever. And do they have turnover? Absolutely. But they're in the business of bringing people on and training them and managing them to certain KPIs that allow you as a manager or an owner of a dispensary to just focus on those high value touch points.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. This is Dave Sky with Matt Cook from MJ Unpacked. And for the rest of the month, we are going to be bringing you interviews from MJ Unpacked and MJ BizCon. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable week. I really enjoyed both conferences. We'll definitely be back next year. And for anyone who was considering coming and kind of hummed and hawed about it and didn't come, I would highly recommend coming next year.
So until next week, from Matt Cook and me, this is the business of cannabis.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.